Yeah, I mean, I think, to not have Cobra Connect in your bag, I think is a huge mistake. It's the one thing that we can do now as a golfer, and one of the things that I work on with my players is everything golfers tend to work on in their golf swing happens on the driving range. And so it's a piece of technology that you can actually use and take onto the golf course and actually see what you're doing when you're playing the actual game of golf. Most people are obsessed with what they're working on and what they're doing on the driving range, but they don't have any way to quantify what they're doing on the golf course. And on the PGA Tour, that's all we're trying to do. We're looking at shot length data. We're looking at how many fairways they hit, how many greens they hit, how many putts they have. And the average golfer now through Cobra Connect, through having a smartphone, can say, okay, first and foremost, the number one thing it does is it tells you how far all your golf clubs go. And I look at so many of the juniors I work with that have Cobra Connect in their bag, and they'll play in a tournament and they'll make a double bogey on a par 3. And we're able to go and kind of look at what they did on the hole, and it's 165 yards, and they've tried to hit their 7-iron. We go through and we've got 5 months of data on you. You don't hit your club that far. So I think what it allows you to do as a player is it allows you not to have to guess as to what's happening on the golf course. And it can also show you weaknesses, but it can also show you some strengths. Hey, maybe you're a better putter than you think. Maybe you're a better bunker player than you think. Maybe you hit more fairways than you think. And having that type of information, I think, is so valuable from a playing standpoint. I think it's crazy not to use it. Oh, when they play, I think most golfers have no idea how far they hit their golf clubs. So they're on the golf course, they're dramatically under clubbing. I think most golfers are far more worried about the direction the golf ball is going as opposed to how solid they hit the golf ball. If you hit the golf ball solid, it doesn't really matter if you hit a draw or a fade or a hook or a slice. I mean, you can play. I think most golfers spend zero time on alignment. So when they practice, they have no idea what they're aiming at, and they never really kind of look at what they do on the golf course. I think most golfers go to the golf course and try 5 or 6 different things. They're always, if one swing thought doesn't work, they try something else. And if that one doesn't work, as opposed to going to the golf course and just trying to work on one thing. And then I think most golfers swing the golf club too hard and too fast. They're trying to hit the golf ball way too hard, and it doesn't allow them to make good, solid contact. Absolutely. If you look good, if you look good and play bad, people think you know what you're doing. They just think you've had a bad day. But if you look good, people go, man, must be a pretty good player because he looks good. But if you look like a clown on the golf course and you play bad, I mean, that's a bad combo. One of the things that I was excited about when I started, working with Cobra and Puma, but specific from the Puma standpoint, I think a lot of the golf clothing can look like a costume. And I'm in the golf world, and one of the things that I want to be able to do is leave work and go meet my wife for dinner and not feel like I'm wearing a costume. And so I think, certainly with all the new stuff that's coming out for 2020, from the shoes to the clothing, to the fabrics, to some of the cuts, you feel like you're able to go from the golf course and then go out on the street and not look like, a cartoon character. Because when I grew up, I'm 50, my dad was a golfer, and I didn't tell people what my dad did because it was funny clothes and kind of weird stuff. I think the evolution in the way Ricky's kind of changed his style and over the 10 years that he's been with Cobra and Puma, but specifically if you look at some of the outfits Ricky wore when he was younger versus where his style is now. But I think being able to go from the golf course and then leave the golf course and not feel like you're going to stand out is huge. And then, the coolest thing for me about being involved with Puma is the footwear. I mean, to have the opportunity to look at all the different shoes that they do, the stuff that they're doing in basketball. And so much of the shoes now cross over, and I think we're seeing that in other sports. I mean, I think people are starting to really look at kind of the way they look on the golf course, and you want to look cool on the golf course. If you don't, I think there's something wrong with it. Yeah, I mean, certainly in the winter, I mean, if you're going to be working and going to driving ranges, you're probably not going to be getting out on the golf course as much as you'd like, and you're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the range or doing stuff indoors, focusing first and foremost on the quality of the contact. If you can hit the golf ball consistently in the air and with good quality of strike, it really doesn't matter which direction it goes. I think it's a great time in the off season when you're practicing a lot for golfers of all handicaps. But if you're in that kind of 15 to 20, 15 to 25 range, which a lot of golfers are, getting to where you can consistently hit the golf ball one shape. If that's a slice, play for it. If it's a hook, play for it. And then working to where you can get the golf ball. I think when you go to the driving range and you're going to practice, if you're trying to draw the golf ball, you need to be able to pick out a target. Every single golf ball needs to start right of your target. If you're going to the driving range and you want to hit fades, every single golf ball needs to start left of your target. And I think the average golfer is obsessed with the direction the ball is curving, but being able to focus on where the ball is going to start. You can start the golf ball consistently in a direction, whether that's to the right or whether it's to the left, you can play. You know, I think Rickie's easily one of the best putters on the planet. You know, Rickie had the standard that Rickie has set for himself is very high, and the standard with Rickie is judged against everybody else is very high. So Rickie can have a year like he had last year where he wins, you know, close to $4 million and wins once and has, you know, a couple of top 10s in majors, and people say, you know, when's he going to play better and when's he going to, so I think Rickie is a victim of his own success, and the bar is, you know, unbelievably high. I've said this a million times, that, you know, I will be shocked if Rickie spends the time that he has on the PGA Tour and doesn't win a major championship. He's put himself in position to win once, and that to me is the thing that Rickie needs to keep doing and will continue to do, is just give himself opportunities. The more opportunities you have to win majors, the more opportunities you have to win golf tournaments, eventually it's going to happen. The hardest shot to play in golf is the one you're playing, because I think most people are constantly thinking about the shot that they just played. They just made a double bogey on the last hole, they just three-putted, so their headspace is kind of in there, or they're thinking about the next hole. You know, now I've got to go to 14 and it's got water on the left and there's OB on the right, and I never do this. The hardest thing I think for the average golfer to do is to focus on the shot they're playing, and then go play the next one, and staying in the present and focusing on what they need to do, the process that they need to do to hit the shot and to kind of get rid of the white noise. So I think all shots are kind of different and individual, but just playing the shot that you've got is hard to do. That's what the tour players do. They're focusing on what they need to do to hit the shot right now. I think the best example of that right now is Brooks Koepka. He's the #1 player in the world, and he's won, you know, 4 out of his last, you know, 8 or 9 majors, because he's able to eliminate all of the white noise. You know, this year he had a chance to win at Augusta, makes double bogey at Amen quarter and 12, and then eagles the next hole. So not worrying about what's happened in the past and focusing on the shot that you have to play. Well, as we're moving into 2020, I mean, there's absolutely no excuse to have a set of golf clubs that you can't quantify if they're actually helping you perform better. If they're not helping you get the golf ball in the air more, if they're not helping you have more spin with your driver or less spin with your driver, if you don't know whether you need more loft or less loft with your driver, if you don't know if you need graphite shafts or steel shafts, if you don't know if you need a shaft that spins more or you need one that spins less, the technology is available. You can go somewhere and get custom fit outside. You can go somewhere and get custom fit inside. You can get on a launch monitor and someone can say, listen, this isn't me guessing that this golf club is better for you. Here's the information. We've given you 4 or 5 different drivers with 4 or 5 different shafts. We've tested different lofts. We've tested different weights and where they are. We've given you golf clubs that maybe have a little bit more offset, maybe that have a little bit less offset. We know that this golf club will help you perform better because we've given you some data points to do it against. If you just pick a set of golf clubs and hit them, you don't actually have anything to gauge off of. So I think part of the fitting process is going and saying, listen, let's run you through a set of irons that have a lot of offset, maybe have a bigger head and they're a little bit more game improvement, and then give you something that's a little bit more of a conventional look, which most players tend to like, and see if they perform better. I think the average golfer, when it comes to club fitting, one, they don't do it enough, but two, they let their ego get in the way and say, listen, well, it's a little too big for me, and I want something a little bit smaller. I went to using one length 3 years ago, and I don't think I'll ever go back to using a regular set, because when I went through the process of getting fitted, I went through one length, I went through a regular set of golf clubs, I hit it more solid, more consistently, with better numbers and better ball speed and better with one length. And that to me is living proof that if you go and get fitted, it does work.